Hey, it's Ryan over at 2-Minute Tennis, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 10 double strategies you can use to win more matches. Please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Even share this video with your doubles friends, as those are the best ways to support this channel. All right, first off, these 10 tips are not in order from least important to most or vice versa. They're all important. Use them, and when you implement them, you're going to win more matches. So my first tip for you is you got to make sure that you are standing in the right place when you start the point. I watch amateur doubles every single day at the club where I coach, and rarely are all four players exactly where they should be to start the point. And you put yourself at a real disadvantage when you aren't positioned correctly. So when it comes to the serving position, you want to be slightly inside the singles line. If you stand too far out wide, then the middle is open, and if you stand too much in the center like you're a singles player, then no one's covering the sharp angle. So you want to be slightly inside the singles line, and you'll be positioned perfectly for most situations. The server's partner, this one causes a lot of arguments actually with players and where they want to stand and where they feel comfortable standing. What you want to do as the partner of the server is just draw an X in the middle of the box. So you just draw an X, and you're going to stand directly in the middle of that X. Cut the service box, in half by having the X, and just stand right in the middle, and you'll be perfectly positioned. When it comes to the returner, it is based on the serve. So if you're playing someone with a really fast serve, you can stand farther back. And if your opponent has an out wide slice serve where they can really hit it out, if you stand too much near the center, you're going to be out of position for the out wide. So make sure that you're standing far enough over that you can get the out wide serve. It is not super easy for the server to hit a perfect serve to the tee. So watch out for this out wide serve even more than the tee serve, because in amateur tennis and club tennis, it's actually easier to serve out wide than it is down the tee in most situations for most levels. And as the returner's partner, just cut the service line in half and stand right on the service line. Just standing correctly to start the point will often give you a huge advantage. Now, tip number 2 is going to help you be right more than 80% of the time when it comes to where you aim your shots. If you're hitting the ball, you can't just think, well, I can hit it anywhere and it's going to be fine. It's not true. You want to know exactly where to hit the ball. And here's a simple way to know. When you're in the back, your job is to prolong the point. And you're going to do that by hitting to the other team's baseliner. So when you're in the back, you're the baseliner, hit to the other team's baseliner. Your job in the back is to keep the point going, to prolong the point. And you're going to do that by hitting to the other team's back person. When you're at the net and you want to end the point, you want to hit it to the other team's net person, preferably at their feet. So you're going to hit it hard and low to them so they struggle with it. Baseliners hit the ball to baseliners. Net players should be aiming for net players. You simply have to just hit the ball to the opponent who is standing where you're standing. That's why you got to keep track of where you are. You need to keep track of where your opponents are standing. You follow this strategy, and you follow it every single time you hit the ball, and you'll be right more than 80% of the time. Now, tip number 3 is going to help you learn to move correctly at net, playing both offense and defense, learning to move correctly when you don't have the ball. Look, let's be honest. When you're playing doubles, there's a 1 in 4 chance that you're hitting, which means there's a 3 out of 4 chance you are not hitting the ball. So you can't just stand there not prepared and not knowing what to do. So here's a simple way to move correctly when you're at the net. Just imagine that the tennis ball is a magnet, which I actually have here, and you just have to move toward the ball like the ball is pulling you toward it. So let's say the returner returns the serve back to the server. Now, obviously the server hit the ball to the returner. It's in the rules. And the returner hits it back to the server, following the strategy we just talked about. Tip number 2, hitting the ball to the opponent who is standing where you're standing. Well, understanding that the ball is a magnet, that would mean that these 2 net players have to move toward the ball. So the server's partner will move back, the returner's partner will go forward. If the server does their job, their aiming strategy job, and hits it and prolongs the point, hitting it back to the returner, the two net players move toward the ball like it is a magnet. You want to move this way so that you're playing both offense and defense. Let me ask you a question. Which player right now is playing offense? Pretty easy to understand. The server's partner is playing offense. They've moved forward. The reason the returner's partner should move back is because they want more time to react in case the returner hits it anywhere near the server's partner. They come over and poach it. Remember, the aiming strategy in tip 2 was aim for the person who is standing where you're standing. Well, the net player is going to aim for the net player. So good thing this player moved back. Maybe they give themselves a little more time to react. Let's say they get it back to the server's partner and then it resets. So you can see the net players will move almost like a dance. The ball goes cross court and these two players start moving forward and back with each other. Don't just stand at the net and get a good neck workout as you watch the ball going back and forth. If the ball goes behind you, move back so that you're ready in case the opposing net player poaches and hits it. And if your partner gets it back to the other baseliner, then you don't have to worry about them anymore. So you can move forward, this player moves back, and it just continues. This is an aha moment for players who I coach on court when they're learning how to move when they don't have the ball. And doing this will help you win a lot more points when you are at the net. By the way, I forgot to mention that what we just talked about, that you move like the ball is a magnet, explains why the partner of the server is in the middle of the box and the partner of the returner is on the line. What we just talked about explains this, because I have people who say, well, why is this? Is it because the returner's partner wants to look at the line to call it in or out? That's not why they're starting back. The reason is because we know that by the rules, the serve has to go to the returner. So these players shift this direction, prepared because the ball is a magnet. And they are waiting up, this player back, knowing that the returner is going to hit the ball. Then when the return is hit back to the server, then they can move this direction. So I know I mentioned that the ball is a magnet, so why wouldn't you start like this if the server is hitting? It's because the returner's partner cannot poach the ball. It's against the rules for this person to touch the ball. So the serve has to go cross court to the baseliner, so the two net players start in those positions so that they're ready to be up toward the returner for their first shot. Tip number 4 piggybacks off of what we just talked about, moving up and back like the ball is a magnet. So it's really important that when the ball is behind you in doubles, that you look at the net person. Let me show you what I mean here. So let's say the serve comes in, the return is hit back to the server. Now we know, and we just learned this, that we should move as if the ball is a magnet. This player is now the offensive player. Where should this person look? You shouldn't just look at both players and just wonder where the ball is going. I don't even mind if you peek back for a second just to look to see how much trouble your partner's in at the baseline, knowing if they're hitting a forehand or a backhand, if it looks like they're in trouble and they're going to lob, whether they're leaning in. It's not a bad idea to take a quick peek to see what this person looks like. But once you see that your partner is about to hit the ball, you must look at the opposing net player. You want to get this in your mind. When the ball is behind you, and this is only true in doubles. Ball's never behind you in singles. Otherwise you're running down a lob. But in doubles, it's often that the ball is behind you. You have to get your focus on the person who can hurt you first. Remember, this person is going to aim for you. We learned that in tip number 2, that net players aim for net players. So if you are forward, let me move this. If you're forward and the returner hits the return cross court, you now move back and you also get your focus on the opposing net player. You're going to react faster to them when your partner accidentally hits to them. You'll see that the returner's partner, you'll see their racket go up, and you'll know to move back even farther because they're probably aiming for you. You'll have more time to react because you're looking at them. You can see them. It's not a surprise attack. When the ball goes behind you and you're at the net in doubles, move back like the ball's a magnet, but then shift your focus on the opposing net player, and you're going to react faster when they poach and attack you. Tip 5 is a very well-known strategy called the Windshield Wiper. This is just a positioning strategy to try to cover 100% of the court 100% of the time. The amount of court you're covering plus the amount of court your partner is covering should equal 50%. Hold up, time out. Did you hear what I just said? That was wrong. I didn't mean to say 50%. What I meant to say was the amount of court you are covering plus the amount of court your partner is covering should equal 100%. All right, let's get back to the video. As often as possible. That way you're not leaving gaping holes for your opponents to hit into. So at the beginning of the point, let's say this is you. At the beginning of the point, you should be trying to cover 50% of the court, and your partner should be thinking of it as they're covering 50% of the court. Well, it's not always going to stay that way. So let's give an example when that doesn't hold true. Your partner serves, and the opponent returns it way off the court, and your partner has to go get it. Well, your partner, after they hit the ball, they're going to be hitting it and they're going to be moving back into the court. Well, if your partner is pulled way off the court, they're not going to be able to cover 50% of the court on the opponent's next shot. Let's say they can only cover 20% of the court. Remember, your numbers have to equal 100. So you are going to, remember that ball, follow the ball like it's a magnet. The ball went back, so you're going to move back, but you're also going to move over because you're going to try to cover 80% of the court. You always want to try to get your numbers to equal 100. If your partner runs a mile that way, completely off the court, you are smack dab in the middle to cover 100% of the court. So learn to move with your partner like windshield wipers on a car, helping you to cover 100% of the court 100% of the time. This is a really well-known concept. And when I mention this to people on the court, if I'm doing like a doubles clinic, they'll say something like, oh yeah, I know that. I'm like, well, it's not enough just to know it. Like, you know, I'm not maybe at that moment teaching them or informing them, but I'm more reminding them. So let this be a reminder to you that you and your partner need to move with each other to cover as much court as possible. Tip 6 is going to be when you or your opponent hit a great lob in doubles, forcing the opponents to switch and where you should move. So let's put this in, let's actually switch this up. I'm going to make this on the ad side. I'm doing all this on the deuce side. So your partner serves. Actually, let's say you're the server. You serve, the opponent hits the return back to you, your partner moves back, the opponent moves up. Remember, moving like it's a windshield wiper. This person is now looking right here. Remember, when the ball's behind you, if this is your partner, the partner should be looking right here in case you don't keep it away from them and then they slam it, right? So that they're ready. But let's say you hit a great lob into the back corner right here, and now the ball's in the back. Now, your opponents are going to switch. So let's just, oops, almost had man down there. So the opposing team switches. Where should this team position themselves? See, when you hit a lob, that's not enough. Like every time, and I mentioned this in my podcast, every time you hit the ball, you have to know where you're going to move if you're successful or even not successful with your shot. I watch so many amateurs hit a great lob and then they just stand there. You want to take advantage of the fact that the opponents are in trouble. They're switching. It's not like before a doubles point, you lean over to your partner and say, hey, I hope we have to switch this next point. Like no one ever says that. Switching is damage control. So when your opponents switch, like that's a good thing for you. They're chasing down a ball. They're usually in trouble. What type of shot does your opponent typically hit? Your opponent typically hits in this situation a lob, and you want to hit an overhead off of that lob. So you and your partner should position yourselves on the service line. A big mistake I see players make, and it's one of two mistakes. I see the baseliner stay back, and the partner moves really close to the net, and you're not going to hit an overhead in either one of those situations. This person's so close, they easily get lobbed. This person's so far back, they're going to let the ball bounce. Or both players get really tight to the net, and then you've just rushed the net to lose at a faster rate. And the ball goes over your head, and you're like, wait a minute, how all of a sudden, how did they turn the tables on us? When you put this in stone in your mind, when you lob over your opponents successfully, they're not hitting an overhead, the ball goes over their head. Get yourselves on the service line. You'll notice that I'm not giving you a direction to move. It's not like I said, lob your opponents and go forward. That's not how you want to think of this. It's when you lob your opponents, go to the service line. And the reason for that is very simple, why I'm saying that. Because if this person is up, I want you to learn this correctly. If this person is up and the lob occurs, this team switches, I'm actually asking this person to back up. I don't want you to think lob and go forward. It's lob and know where to go, because it might be actually back. This person moves up, this person is now on the service line, they moved back. And in this scenario, with this person lobbing, they're rarely going to get a lob over your head. They're going to lob it up, and tip number 2 is aim for the opponent closest to you. All of a sudden, it's 2 against 1, and you're going to slam the ball. Not trying to hurt them, you're going to try to hit it to their half of the court, and the ball is just going to go by. So get this in your mind. Please share this with your doubles partner. When you lob over your opponent's head successfully, move to the service line as a wall, they're probably going to lob it up. And even if they don't, you just volley at that person too. But they're probably going to lob it up, and then you hit your overhead at the feet of the net person. Now, tip 7 is when you are the blue team and you get lobbed. So let's talk about this. I am so excited for you to learn this tip. This tip will save you so many points in a match. And please, again, share all of these tips with your doubles partner, because you don't want to just learn all this stuff and then your doubles partner isn't learning it as well. You need to be on the same page with your partner. Let's go over the exact same scenario we just did. So the serve goes cross court, obviously. The return goes to here. We've learned all this stuff now. This player moves in, this player moves back. Now this player lobs. We just talked about this. Remember, this team should be moving to the service line. That's what should happen. This is vital. What I typically see is this player yells switch. The person in the back, the returner, goes and gets the lob. And this person goes straight across and is a dead duck at the net. You know why the previous tip works so well? Because this is what your opponents do. Your opponents switch and they stay at the net. The person in the back is in trouble. It's not, I know this is on a board and it's super easy. This is a far distance. It's 36 feet from here to here. And so oftentimes this person is running in major trouble and they hit the weakest shot that then gets nailed at you at the net if you switch and go straight across. So here's what I want you to do. When you switch, I want you rather to move back. And depending on how much trouble your partner's in, just go back all the way to the baseline. You're trying to defend at this moment. You're not attacking. You're in big trouble. You're saying switch, you are in trouble. So don't move across. Don't do that. I'm going to give a check mark here for this one. When the ball goes over your head, move back diagonally. Then when your partner, it's not if, when your partner lobs and your opponent slam it, remember, tip 2 is hit overheads, or when you're at the net, hit strong shots at the person closest to you. Because you moved back diagonally, now you have a lot of time to react to their ball. And both back is a great strategy to use in doubles. Now you're playing defense. Now you can try to get the ball at their feet. You can then attack, they pop it up, and then you can slam it away. I'm telling you, people often ask, how do I turn defense into offense? This is how you do it. When you get lobbed in doubles, switch, but move back diagonally into no man's land or even all the way to the baseline, depending on how much trouble your partner's in, and you're gonna win a lot more points. Tip 8 has to do with you and your partner as a team and how you are positioned. First, let me say there are 3 basic ways to play doubles. They are 1 up, 1 back as a team. You can't control what your opponents do, but I'm saying as a team. You can play 1 up, 1 back. You can play both back. and you can play both up. It's really the three basic ways. The most common way people play is one up, one back, but I'm here to tell you it's really the worst way to play doubles. It works in amateur tennis because most people play one up, one back. So one up, one back against one up, one back is just fine. It's kind of a coin flip who's going to win. The second best way to play doubles is both back. The reason it's the second best way and the reason it's better than one up, one back is you're playing all defense. You can just hit all ground strokes. It's very tough for this team to win a point because there's no net person for them to pick on with very little time to react. So when you and your partner keep the court in front of you, and if they happen to hit a short ball, you can attack. But the best way to play is both up. And let me just say, if you can get as a team yourselves up at net, and up at net could be this too, right? If you play a lobbing team, you could hang around the service line so that it's hard for them to get the ball over your head. But when you play both up as a team, then what you can do, remember tip 2 was aim for the opponent who is standing where you're standing. In this situation, you are both going to pick on, and usually this person's a little closer, you're both going to pick on, it's 2 against 1. You're both going to pick on the net player. Remember, aim for the opponent who is standing where you're standing. So a good strategy is, serve and volley or return and volley, where during the point you hit the shot to the other player and you quickly move in. You can do it off your serve, you can do it off of a short serve, and you can do it on the return, like a second serve, and you attack. When you come up and you and your partner are up, you're now going to pick on this person. It's 2 against 1. This player is trying to abide by the second rule, which was hit your shot to the opponent who is standing where you're standing. Where when you and your partner are up and the returner is hitting the ball, the baseliner is hitting the ball, they can't follow the strategy. They have no one to hit toward. And they might try to pass you, but they're going to hit it out. They might lob you, but even if you're on the service line, they can't get it over your head. And you are just going to have a field day picking on this person who's just going to get pummeled with your shots. So realize that one up, one back is really the worst way to play. If you have a very aggressive opponent and they're slamming the ball, play both back. You can do it as the serving team. You can do it as the returning team. Literally start the point, both players back. If you're playing a really strong team, you'll have plenty of time to react to their shots. But if you really and truly want to dominate your opponents and you want to move up a level, learn how to position yourselves up close, and then you've got to pick on the other net player. They will have no time to react to your shots. Tip 9 is actually the most advanced tip I'm going to give you in this 10-tip series here. And it has to do with predicting where your opponent is going to hit the ball. In my experience, and this is unbeknownst to most people, your opponents determine where they are going to hit the ball based on which side of their body they're striking the ball on. They don't even realize that they do it. But if you've ever played baseball or softball, you understand this idea that most right-handed batters hit the ball to left field, and most left-handed batters hit the ball to right field. Well, the funny thing about tennis is we hit the ball on both sides of our bodies. So let me explain. Let's say, and this has nothing to do with right-handed or left-handed, truly. This because left-handed or right-handed, it doesn't matter. We all hit on both sides of our body. So if you see the opponent hitting the ball on, where the heck, there it is, on their right side, this is their right side. It's our left, but their right. Most likely, they are going to hit the ball cross court. Most likely. The arm pulls that way. Most people swing across their body as they hit, so they just pull the ball that direction. And if they are hitting the ball on the left side of their body, they usually hit the ball this way. Players usually hit in an X. You can see the X right there. When players hit on the right side of their body, they hit the ball this direction. When they hit the ball on the left side of their body, they usually hit the ball this direction. So you can actually use this as a way to know when to poach. If I'm here and I see this player hitting, let's say they're right-handed, hitting a backhand, I am holding. I am assuming that because they're going to pull across their body, that their brain is going to say, you know what, why don't I try going down the line? So I'm actually going to hold, and I'm going to probably be prepared, since I'm right-handed, for a backhand volley. This same thing applies on the other side. Let's just go right to the other side. Let me erase all of this. This is something that I learned from Gigi Fernandez, and it is a game changer for people, amateur players, who are trying to figure out what to do at the net and how to know when to poach and what to look for. Let's say this is you, and your partner serves to this player's left side. Typically, and which means more than 50% of the time, which means whenever you're right more than 50% of the time, that's a good thing. They're usually, especially if they're right-handed and this is their backhand, they're usually going to hit this ball cross court. Their arms pull that way, so you can be prepared for a cross court return. If the serve is hit to this side of their body, this is often when the ball is attempted down the line. Now you might think, well, I know Barb or I know John and they're tricky. Well, obviously I don't know your opponents and they might do things that go against this. But simply stated, look at the side of the body where your opponent is hitting. And just think baseball. Right-handed batters tend to hit the ball, if you watch baseball, they tend to hit the ball to third base and the shortstop. Left-handed batters tend to hit the ball to first base and second base. There are exceptions, obviously, but we're talking about the percentages. Start paying attention to the side of the body your opponent is hitting on, and you can predict which way they're going to hit the ball. And this is especially true at the net. If someone's got a forehand volley, let's say this player has a ball right here, they're usually going to hit the ball this way. If they've got the ball on this side, they often hit the ball this way. The ball generally travels like an X. Start predicting where your opponent is going to hit the ball, and you will shock yourself, your partner, and your opponents how many shots you run down. And my last tip, tip number 10, is make sure in between points you get with your partner and you talk for 5 seconds or less about where you're going to aim your serve, where you're going to aim your return, what's been working. You'll notice pro doubles teams get together for just a few seconds. I watch most amateurs, in between the points, they just go to their places and they never talk about what's working, what's not working. Watch the pros, just like a football team, they'll huddle for just a second. After each point, get together, talk for a second or two about where you're going to plan on hitting your return, what types of serves are working against certain opponents. And if you follow these 10 tips, there is no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy over at 2minutetennis.net, and I'll see you in the next video.